Welcome to the Mavens of Marketing, a weekly podcast hosted by me, Rachel Durkin.
And me, Carrie Barrett. We talk all things marketing, innovation, sales, and business growth strategies, and the standard tried and true marketing techniques.
Come for the conversation, stay for the savvy insights.
And the borderline inappropriate jokes.
Thank you for joining us for the Mavens of Marketing. I am one of your lovely and talented co-hosts. I am joined by the also lovely and talented Rachel Durkin. How are you?
I'm good. Hello, everyone. If you didn't notice, Carrie and I matched today. It was not planned, but we think we look good.
It's almost like you were spying on me as I was getting dressed.
I do have that camera that your husband helped me put in, but we're not going to tell you where it is.
With that said, which one of these doesn't belong? And I guess maybe for a number of reasons, BMO. You're not in the right outfit. You're not the right gender.
Yeah.
How are you?
The gray matches nicely. He's not clashing.
I am great. I can go change into some blue if you need to.
That's all right. We'll forgive you. We're excited to talk to you. You are, like, in my opinion, my lowly opinion, like the TikTok sort of, what's the Holy Grail? That's the word I was looking for. I know. Okay. I'm putting a lot of pressure on you, but I say that with the disclaimer that I don't really know that much about TikTok. But why don't you take a second to introduce yourself to the audience and let them hear all about who you are and what you do.
I am just a clown that got locked up in quarantine like the rest of us and needed a new outlet. My radio station went sideways. And so needed a creative outlet, turned to TikTok, and just stuff blew up. I basically do sketches, like comedic sketches based on whatever dumb stuff is just happening on Earth, which over the last year has been a lot. So I have not been low on content, but that's pretty much it. I'm just a guy that took a pivot, and now my business is making silly videos online, which I never thought I'd say.
No, I 100% love it. I mean, the fact that you can make a business out of that, and like a lucrative one, continues to blow my mind. And I will tell you that, I watch, like, my children will watch those just never ending unboxing videos on YouTube. And my husband is like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, that 4-year-old is making $20 million a year.
Or Blippi. Somehow Blippi is like a staple in my house.
So let me ask you, when we'll talk about your business as well, what did you do on TikTok to get to where you are? Because there is money there. People are confused about how to use it for marketing. They're confused about how it can help them with their brand. A lot of people want to know, how do I go viral on any platform? But TikTok is one that we're still figuring out, especially so, I think. And I will say this, it's interesting. I go back and I look at, like, I'll use Twitter for an example, because I was most active on Twitter when I was still in the news industry. And I could post a story about, or tweet about a story that had real impact and relevance and affected a lot of people. And the response, meh. Post a picture of, like, cat puke or a funny dog video, and it's like, boom, it just explodes. People do have a desire, even in the news audience, for, like, funny and entertaining, and it does help grow your brand. And I've talked long enough now, so tell me about how you just, like, randomly created a video on TikTok and it blew up, because you have over 1 million followers and people love what you're putting out there.
Well, kind of what happened is more so, before all the TikTok stuff, I was a DJ and a radio personality in Boston. I took improv classes for a year just to help with my radio stuff. And the end of it was sketch writing, which was something I also wanted to get into, and just comedy in general, and acting and stuff. So when COVID happened, obviously everyone had to figure something else out. So I sort of just, out of having nothing else in way too much time, just started playing with it. And the original thing was I just kind of took advantage of the fact that a ton of millennials were jumping onto TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my wife, as simple as just a walk literally in the park, I said, we used to do all these dumb dances. We just didn't do them for the internet. And she was like, you should do a video of like millennial dances and just make a mix and like we'll do the dances. So I did that and it blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, I am not a dancer by nature.
Which is why it blew up.
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, I have this audience, I have this opportunity. I might as well now go for it. Try and throw some of this comedic stuff out, see what's there. And there were a lot of misses. Believe me when I tell you, there were a lot of misses and a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor. But eventually I threw some sketches out and people started to like them. And then that became my thing where people started coming for that, which worked in transitioning me into a new world of, instead of radio and just DJing, now I'm doing the comedy that I wanted to do and doing essentially the acting, even though it's not a movie credit. It's still, you have to act to do the sketches and you have to act to do improv. So it kind of just transitioned me into a brand new world. And just by interacting with my audience and seeing what they liked, that's how I just kind of grew it.
So let me ask you this, and I sense Rachel has a question, so I'll keep it short. When you talk about your audience, how did you figure out what it was that they wanted to see from you? I mean, it's trial and error, I think, across a lot of the social media platforms, but TikTok, we were talking about this a little before the episode started. If it doesn't hit right away, it's really hard for your audience, no matter how big they are, to see it. So how did you begin to educate yourself about the stuff that was resonating with them? I think the lessons there apply for businesses across all the social media platforms.
So I kind of used the same strategy that someone would use in radio as a radio jock. Is when the song ends and you hear the jock come on and start talking, no one cares what we have to say. More often than not, you might change the station. So you have to catch people immediately. So my main focus was, especially the nature of TikTok, where you can just scroll to the next thing.
They make it so easy to like skip. Yeah.
So you give it 2 seconds. No, keep going. So I made sure that the first 2 to 3 seconds were something that were going to make you say, huh, and give me 2 to 3 more.
Yeah.
And then keep building from there. And within the first 1 to 10 seconds, I want to make sure that video has hit enough that no matter how long it is, you're gonna stay.
Okay.
So it's all about, to me, it was all about like making sure you catch someone off the top and hold on to them.
What did you catch? Sorry, Rachel.
Keep going. That's great.
What did you catch them with? What was it? Is it faces first? Is it music? Is it visuals? Or does it depend on what it is that you're talking about? Because Rachel and I say the same thing to our clients. Rachel's in marketing and I'm in video production. And you got to catch them out of the gate. You have to hit. I mean, for us, we're doing longer videos than TikTok, but it's like 7 seconds. So what is it that you put first that you find gets the most attention and keeps people around?
So for me, where it was sketches, it would always be one of the sketches I do is the generations kind of arguing. And I knew most of my followers were millennials because of that first video. And so I would always start with my millennial character first.
Okay.
And it had the label in front of it, the name plate that would say millennials. So if you were scrolling and you saw me dressed in the same outfit as this character with the label, you knew what was about to come. So at the very least, the people who already followed me and knew this was a video that they were ready for.
Yeah.
So at least they would watch it and help push it to other people to discover it. And it's the same. I did it with a Disney prince one, and this might be a better example. Like if I say, what's the name of the prince from Snow White? What's his name?
I don't even remember.
Exactly.
No
But now,
doesn't
what
matter.
was the name? What was the name of Jasmine's prince?
Aladdin.
Exactly. Everyone knows Aladdin. So all my Disney Prince sketches, I made sure the first person you saw was Aladdin. So then you would see Aladdin with like a Bud Light just chilling. And then you're wondering why, like, what does Aladdin do? Why is this happening? So now you're going to watch through, and then the other princes will come in throughout and you can catch up. But I got you originally with what you know.
You're creating expectations.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we talked about. We were just in another podcast this morning and we're talking about the emotions that grab attention, and nostalgia is a huge one that you can leverage. So being able to recognize something that made you happy as a child or in years past is a great way to grab attention. So it's funny, you know, Carrie mentioned 7 seconds, you mentioned 3 seconds. I think I've talked about this before. I read a Microsoft study, I think this was last year, that said our attention span is around 7 seconds and is planning to go down about 2 seconds every year. But they didn't say what was going to happen in like 3 years. So I don't know what's going to happen. We're all screwed. But I would venture to guess that that's even being accelerated with all of our abilities to scroll. So you are right on. Let me ask you this question. You obviously have a vision. I also heard you say something about consistency of characters, which is awesome, right? So people can become to like know, love, and trust these characters and know what to expect from them. But you have, with the way social media is changing now, with the algorithms, with how much content is out there, with video consumption going up 120% since COVID started, how do there's a lot of pressure to keep putting more and more content out there. So how do you manage that? How do you handle that? And what advice do you have to the rest of us who need to create an enormous amount of content for our brands?
So I think in one sense, simply put, I'm a different animal. I'm a weirdo in that sense that I enjoy it so much that like I want to be doing multiple videos and whatever. But I just someone had said to me, and I just said this on a different podcast the other day, is that everything is content. So I try to find a way to, throughout my day, find something that could be turned into content that I could use as content. Like, I know you had mentioned Twitter the other day, and the nature of Twitter is just kind of random thoughts throughout your day, whatever. And so when I see something I think is funny out in the world, like at the gym or in the gym locker room, which I have millions of stories from, like just tweeting something like that out is other people are going to recognize it, relate to it to some degree, and laugh about it. But if you don't have the mindset and you don't open your mind to letting everything just be inspiration and potential content, then you're limiting yourself, because everything can sort of snowball into something else. One thing I do that's huge, even if it's not an idea that works now, I write it in my notes and go, there might be something there.
Yeah.
And then something else might couple with it, and then boom, there's the next new idea.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, I mean, obviously you're a creative guy and you've got the background for this, right? So from a left brain, right brain concept, right? So like my marketing strategy logic wants me to like evaluate the audience and look at the data and figure out what's being grabbed in 3 seconds. But then there's this creative mindset that has to play into it to kind of just put it out there and see what works. What's your approach? Like, do you mentioned that you were trying to figure out what they liked, and there's a lot on the cutting room floor. Like, how do you use data? Do you just understand your audience and know it well? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
There's definitely a balance of the two, I'd say, is because I definitely want to keep trying new things and just see what other worlds I can enter and what more I can give and who else I can reach. But at the same time, I know the audience I have, and every video that I post, I check in, I check the analytics, see how long they've been watching, see what, even the comments will tell you the things they like. Like I've noticed more that when there are more kind of roasting videos where people are kind of throwing lines at each other and throwing jabs, that usually resonates and hits a little harder than if it's just a story that's funny. So it's kind of playing that dance back and forth and seeing what your audience likes and what they can relate to mostly. I think finding what they relate to is like the biggest part.
It's interesting that you say that, because while I don't have a huge following on TikTok, nor Instagram, but I do more work on Instagram. I like to use the smaller features like stories to find out if a particular like piece of content or an idea or something that I take inspiration from, if it gets a lot of traction, if it gets reaction, if it gets, comments or people sending me DMs, then I realize that element may allow a broader piece of content, right?
Yes.
Whether it's a LinkedIn post or an Instagram or
Yep.
something like that. And so when you talk about taking inspiration from everything, this is a true story. Not that long ago, I was like, well, I really need to take a shower. I haven't taken a shower in probably 3 days because life, business, kids. And but I also had emails I needed to catch up on. So no shit, I put a plastic bag around my phone and I brought it into the shower with me, and I answered emails as my face mask was on and my deep conditioner was in there. Yeah. And then I'm like, shit, excuse me, I'm swearing a lot today. I should,
of the day, apparently.
I should do an Instagram story about this. And I just did, create mode. I did a little text and I made a silly face and I told people what I was doing, no pictures, but the commentary that got was huge. And I realized, okay, I need to take that and I need to make it something. So I ended up doing another Instagram video, part of That Sucks, Get Back Up series that I do, that was like talking about work-life balance and like a challenging moment and how I, moved out of it. And I'm still figuring out how to move out of it because I really haven't gotten there yet. But I love the fact that you talk about, right, sort of experimentation and using different features on different social media platforms to figure out what it is that your audience likes.
Yes.
Now that I've said all of that, you do the same thing. So let me ask you, TikTok's a little bit different, I think. I'm not fully knowledgeable about it than some of the other platforms. As I understand it, it's harder, I find. There's a little more friction to engage with your audience than it is on like Instagram. You have to click on something and then click on something else. And how do you handle engagement, and how important has that engagement been for you, not just on TikTok, but on the other social media platforms, in terms of helping your algorithm, getting people to follow you, getting people interested in what you're saying? A lot of times people think I just need to put something out there and people will come to me with suitcases full of money, but it really is that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've utilized on TikTok is going live.
Yeah.
So at first I was replying to a ton of comments, but then eventually you get to a point where you grow enough, it's impossible to catch up with all of them. And so instead of just focusing on like the comments and spending an hour just trying to write back the same message, being like, haha, LOL, haha, LOL, haha, LOL.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Exactly. So finally I was like, I'm going to utilize this live feature, and here and there, just like go live, talk to people. And then in real time, as a comment comes up, I can answer it, respond. Yeah. And that gives people a feeling that you and them are almost friends. Like you're not separated from them. And I genuinely appreciate all the people that are giving their time to me. So it's a way to kind of give them a thank you back and like let them in as well. And I think that's important across the board for any social media stuff, because people don't want to just see your stuff. If you go that next level, then they feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah.
And it's bigger.
It's interesting that you talk about live, and I think you have to have 1,000 followers to go live on TikTok. Yeah. Instagram is obviously, you can go live whenever, but live streaming across any platform right now is having like a moment, the algorithms, the platforms are boosting live content above a lot of the other elements, but people are afraid of it because they're worried. There's no editing. Once I've said something stupid, it's out there.
I can see in the shower if I accidentally drop the phone.
Yeah. So I mean, you have a radio background, right? So, you know, you're probably used to trolls and that sort of thing. I was used to that, certainly to some degree, when I was in the news business. How would you advise people to get over the fear of doing live and understanding the importance of it in spreading their message and being able to interact with their audience? I always say that, like, when a CEO of a big company has some sort of controversy, rather than some written stuffy press release, they would do much better, as long as they were prepared, to just go live and answer questions from their shareholders and from their consumers. But man, people are scared of it. So how do you get through that fear?
I think a part of it is it definitely comes with a level of confidence. Like, you have to be confident and secure in the message you want to put out, in who you are and what you represent, right? So if I'm going live, then I know I'm energetic, I'm not tired, I'm not whatever. I'm ready for whatever is going to be thrown at me, because there will be curveballs, there will be weird stuff, there will be people like asking you weird things and saying weird things. So just kind of like finding a way to even just play with it or joke with it or keep it simple and light, to me, is the best way to be able to tackle any of it. And I've done lives with like on serious topics and found ways to just keep it light and not let it, if it starts to go to a certain path, just kind of steer it back. And not be afraid of steering it back, because I think some people are afraid to say, no, let's not get crazy with this. Let's keep it light and friendly.
Yeah, I always, I know Rachel has a question for you, but I think of the same thing. It's like when I would do an interview on TV, like out on the street, and I would go to hold the mic to somebody and they would go to take it. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
On your phone. You're not taking control of it, but that does take a certain level of skill and like not being afraid to control the conversation.
Yeah.
Confidence.
Yeah, and preparation definitely helps. Being
Yeah.
prepared and knowing what you're ready to, because I don't usually go live just to be like, hey, here's me eating lunch.
Yeah.
Lots of times I do trivia stuff, and like I'll have something so I know if things aren't going wonky, I've got other plan. I can do something else. We can talk about something different.
Yeah, it's preparation. So let me ask you a question. This whole world of influencer marketing and has really shot up in the last several years. And now there's all these wonderful new platforms. And I keep asking this question to everybody we talk to who's either a TV personality or on social. How do you monetize it? And this question is not necessarily for you, but for business leaders and marketing professionals in general. So in my mind, there's a couple ways we can do that. One, obviously, now that you're 1 million followers, you have an influencer status, people can sponsor with you. So I mean, I'm guessing if someone wants to call you up and be like, I want to give you a whole bunch of money to talk about my product and you believe in it, you will say yes. So that's something to consider. But and you know, there's also companies able to build their own influencer status. But besides that, how do you monetize this? You did mention something about a business you're starting. What are your recommendations to all these marketing professionals out there on that?
So it's funny because me and my manager have talked a lot about this the last couple of days. And one thing that I've realized from an influencer side, for companies that come to me and say, here's X dollars, would you do a TikTok for our product, right? So mostly what I do is sketches, and not everyone's different, because some people have reached their numbers differently. But for me, it's sketches. So what I won't do is I won't have you come and give me a full script or tell me what this sketch has to be. The reason you're coming to me is because of what I've done and the audience that I've built by doing that. So no matter what the money is, I have to protect my brand at the same time.
The integrity of the audience,
And so what I usually will do with people is say, give me the points that you definitely need. And let's try and find ways to like throw them in there where it doesn't feel like people are watching an ad, but then all of a sudden, boom, they just did. And I just did one on Instagram, and all of the comments down the line said, this is an ad I actually would watch multiple times. This is the first time I've ever gone on Instagram and seen an ad that I would I don't mind watching over again. And I didn't even realize I was watching an ad, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think in that world, that's more of what you're looking for than in your face, because that's where people will jump away, scroll away, thumb away.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, or a company reaching out to influencers, I think it's best to be open to that. And one thing I've noticed is please make sure you have at least seen the profile and the content of the people you're reaching out to. There are so many people that will come to me. I had someone ask me, reach out to me, and it was a dating app for like Gen Z people. And I was like, do you realize all of my content is making fun of Gen Z people, and I'm married. And I'm very clearly married on my profile. So you clearly didn't even take the time to look. Like, so
you have to do your research.
Yeah, I think it's you have to know who you're investing in, know what their normal content is, and it has to be a match that way. It's not just they have 1 million, I want them to put this out, because that doesn't mean that it's going to look good for you.
Oh, absolutely.
If someone,
either the influencer or the company, if there's anything that doesn't jive, it's going to be a mess.
Exactly. So audiences are not going to respond to that. You have to find the people that you can work with. You know what I mean? The people you vibe with. I do a lot of alcohol in my videos. So some alcohol companies have reached out, and I was like, oh, we've got stuff to do. Yeah.
I need that, especially in the past 12 months. So we're coming up on time, but I actually have 2, maybe 3 questions quickly to ask you. I'm moving a little bit away from influencer and creating video that engages people, and talking about, I want to ask you about your pivot, because I hadn't realized that after radio left, this evolved and now has become your business. So there's a lot of people who are in not your position exactly, but have had to find other paths for themselves, career-wise, business, professionally. How was that pivot process? Was it stressful, hard, like takeaways for people who may be going through the same thing themselves?
Definitely interesting and different. It really was just, I was doing stuff I enjoyed, and then suddenly I noticed that you could also make money doing it.
Yeah.
And in that, as things have progressed, the reason I've started this business is I had my DJ business before, but now this is more, when companies and brands do come to me for things for me to do sketches and posts and whatever for them, that's where the money goes. That also can then fund some of my DJ stuff. It also can help me with the manager I have that helps find good brand deals that work with me and whatever. So then you can pay her to continue helping and
building a business infrastructure.
Yeah, and just all of the ventures that were everywhere now are centralized. So it's easier now, but trying to figure out all the different things and to put them together was a little hard and stressful, but entirely worth it now.
Yeah.
And it's not a place I thought I would end up. It's not a thing I thought was possible, but it 100% is. And it's kind of a much more fun way to get there.
Absolutely.
I love it. I think and congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
So BMO, I'm actually really excited to ask you this question. We ask all our guests, what is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you?
So, I mean, how long do you have? So I think, I think the weirdest will be, and this is kind of cheesy, I guess, but I don't know. I've had a lot of weird things happen and a lot of weird stories, but the weirdest thing is in a pandemic, when you blow up on social media, you don't see anyone. You're just at home, right? Yeah. And one day, me and my wife were at Target, masks on, and we were arguing about waffles in the
Legitimate.
and someone just came up and they were like, hey, sorry to bother you. Are you BMO? And I was like, oh, yes. And it was the most, like, I realized in that moment that I am probably the most awkward human that exists. I think it was just weird because I had spent months having like this big following and it never translated that like these are real people that if I'm out in the world, like will see me and know who I am.
Yeah.
So I think that's like kind of cool and I like appreciate it, but it's definitely weird because I feel like I'm not cool enough to be like that.
Well, you are. But I bet, I mean, like you were on the air for a long time in Boston, but nobody ever really sees you, right? They just hear your voice. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have made that more awkward is if you offered to give them an autograph. Did you do that?
I did not.
Okay.
I awkwardly just like kind of stood there, and then like my wife kind of like controlled the conversation because I was like, yeah, hi. And to that same point, another time it happened was when a mom in a restaurant came up to me with her daughter who was like 6. And she was like, hey, I don't know who you are, but my daughter tells me you're the millennial guy. And I was like, okay.
I like that the 6-year-old knew that, and neither of them think of
Right.
millennials.
Your millennial videos are funny. When I see them, I'm like, I gotta hang on to watch this. And then the next guy comes up, or you do like God in 2021. And like
that one, yeah.
They're really good. And if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, you've had the opportunity to see some of those videos. If you're listening to it, I would suggest heading on over to the YouTube channel and checking out some of his videos, see him there. And then of course, go follow him, which brings me to my next question. If people want to find out more about you, what you do, if you might be a good fit for their product or their service, how should they get in touch with you?
Either DMs, but that's also gets a little crowded in there. But bmothenprince@gmail.com or bmo@goldilocks-productions.com. Both of those places you'll find answers there better than just DMs, because usually it's people telling me lots of weird dumb stuff in there.
There's a lot of that. So sometimes some photos that come along with them as well, which are always very special.
Yep.
I've gotten some excellent photos that we're not allowed to share with the public.
You were amazing, BMO. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely awesome. And for our audience, thank you for listening to this episode of the Mavens of Marketing. We'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Bye.
It's a teaser.
Ever wonder what makes content compelling? You know, I create video with clients. You create content. You create pitch decks and presentations and speeches and social media content. But how do you know that anyone's paying attention? And 48 hours later, how much do they remember? Coming up on the next episode of the Mavens of Marketing, we are talking to a neuroscientist. And yes, she may have had to shorten her words and dumb it down a little bit for us, but nevertheless, oh my gosh, I took notes the entire time. Coming up on the next episode of the Mavens of Marketing.